It's been a while.
It's been a while. Okay, okay. Everyone out there, I'm Martina. This is
Seth.
yes. Well, welcome back to our channel. We've been away for a little while, with the holidays and us getting caught up with work. And I actually started a new job, which I won't get into much on here, but just know I did. And so, yeah, hope we have our regular folks here, and hope we get some new folks here to join our page as well. So, actually, Alyssa and I met yesterday. And we were like, what do we need to talk about? Like, what's been going on in the world? Not that there's a lack of things going on in the world. But what we decided to do is that we wanted to do a brief recap of kind of like current events, or just like a recap in general of what's happened since we last came on to the channel. And so, we're going to kind of do this in two different parts, hopefully. So the first thing, that we wanted to kick off is that we got a new administration in the White House. Yes. We had a bomb inauguration. Let's say how that made you feel. I can get into it. I'm gonna let you go. I can talk for a while.
No. Hi everyone. Happy to be back with you all. You know what? Inauguration Day was such a good day. And when I watched it, I surprisingly got really emotional throughout the whole thing. I didn't expect to, because I don't typically get like super emotional around inauguration days anyway, but this one just felt different. It reminded me of like when Obama came into office and there was that really sort of emotional, moments. And this just reminded me of like, okay, there's some hope again. Not that it's going to be perfect, and not that everything's going to go the way that we all think it should go, right. But it was just like you can take a breather. You can just see that there's hope down the line, and it was just like a day where I was just like, okay, and just I'm the kind of person that always gets emotional when the national anthem is sung. I've always been that way ever since I was little.
I didn't know that about you.
I don't know what it is. It might be sort of the ingrainedness of like the American dream, and you kind of think of like I think about my parents' struggle and like all that, and it just kind of. So when I heard that, and then just the whole after that, I was just like, emotions were on high. But I think I'm not naive to think that it's all going to be perfect and wonderful, and that Biden's administration will not make any mistakes, because ain't no administration perfect. But I definitely look forward to just having logic and rationale back into our government a little bit.
With that. Uh-oh, Lisette froze. I was trying to hold it, but maybe that part is going to have to be edited out. Okay. Hope it doesn't kick me out.
I'll see if I can get back on track. So ever since I was little, the national anthem always kind of would get me emotional. And I always I think it has to do more with the fact that it reminds me of sort of the quote unquote American dream. And like my parents sort of struggle to come here and sort of create these better lives for their kids and just for themselves as well. So I think it just kind of gets me that. So after that whole thing, like once the national anthem was like sung and just everything, I was just like, oh my God, like it made you proud. At least for me, it made me proud to be a United States citizen on that day. And, ever since then, like I don't expect Biden's administration to be perfect. It doesn't mean that I won't criticize things that they'll do, because I'm sure that they'll do things that I don't agree with and that others will hold accountable. But what I do think I appreciate is that we will be able to hold them accountable. And I think they will be able, hopefully we'll be able to like say, we messed up, and not be as the previous administration and say that everything is perfect and that they're perfect and that everything that they're doing is right and everybody else is wrong. And I think we'll be able to see a little bit about, we'll talk, I think, a little bit more as we talk more of like what has happened since the last time we've been on here. But yeah, how about you, Martina? What was your
What?
day
You bring
like?
up a good point. I'm just like back up to what you said about the national anthem, like feeling proud and that. I've never really felt proud in that. Although, my people, were forced to come here hundreds of years ago.
Mhm.
So it's never really uh, you know, resonated with me per se. And over the last few years with the past administration, it's just really been embarrassing for me to be an American. I'm just saying, I've traveled abroad and gone to other countries. I've said I'm from Canada. For all the Canadians out there, I'm sorry. I know you may not want us. I understand that we've been real shitty, but I'm from the same place that Drake from, Toronto. Don't ask me nothing about it. I don't know about the six. That's all I know. But that's like when I would travel abroad. Like I was just, oh, I'm from Canada, because I was so ashamed to just like be an American. But on that day, on the inauguration, I felt so proud to be an American that day, and I had not felt that in so long. And of course, I got emotional too, like you did, and a lot of other people that we know, because it was just so much to be proud from that day. And like I had to work throughout that day, so I didn't get a chance to watch everything live. So I had to come back and watch things that were pre-recorded and on the different news outlets. And the one that really got to me was when Kamala came up there, was being sworn in, and it was just so much. And it was like, we have a Latina justice, a Jewish
Yeah.
first, well, a Jewish second gentleman, and a biracial VP who identifies as a Black woman. It's just so much. And I was talking to my mama that day, and she was just like, it is a day to be very emotional because we've never seen anything like this in the United
Yeah.
States. And here we're supposed to be what built on immigrants and the lives of people from all across the country. Supposed to be able to come here talking about the American dream your parents have, but that's hardly ever the case, or at least
Yeah.
positive examples of that. And to be able to
Mhm.
really see that day, it was just really a lot. And then later that day, they showed the two senators from Georgia being sworn in, and the Latino senator from California. And I just started crying
Oh
about that
yeah.
again because I couldn't believe out in California they've never had,
Forgot about that moment.
right. They had a Latino senator who was a male. They've never had, I was like, really?
The
In
first
California?
one from
The first
California.
one? It's like, get out of here. And then, we've been hearing kind of following and hearing the stories of what's been going on in Georgia. But still, just to see, again, this Jewish young man, this Black pastor, this Latino man who they've never had a senator that's been a Latino
Mhm.
male in California, I just started crying again. And it was just like, man, what a day. Like, wow. It was just very emotional. Then, of course, they had Amanda's poem, which is now, she's like skyrocketed, of course, that she deserves because it was such a beautiful poem. It was a really great day. It was a really great day.
Yep.
And of course, we have to talk about the fashion. I mean, the Bidens,
Ah,
the Harrises, the Obamas, everybody was on point. Like Biden's people came in like they were thick as thieves. Everybody was monochromatic, color coordinated.
yes.
Okay, I'm like, oh my goodness. And of course, Michelle came out. I knew it was Michelle because I was like, that's my girl. I knew it was her. And then of course
Oh my.
saw the hair. Oh,
And I think one of the funniest things that I saw was the comparison of 4 years ago, what she wore when the previous
ponytail.
administration came in, and to now, to just like, I was like, and you know what? The thing is, you can say so many things with fashion. You could just make so many statements with what you wear, what you do with like your hair, makeup, and all this. Like, it's just such a subtle way of like being like, yeah, I agree or I don't agree with what's, because I mean, and it talks and like in what when they both like when the Obama stepped out, I was like, oh, it's like
Okay.
you took a moment to just be like, oh yes, come down.
Yeah.
You still reign these stairs. Go ahead. It was like that royalty moment.
It was. It really was like a royalty moment. I was just thinking, like, I was like, can you imagine being in this space that day? Just even, people from both sides of the aisle, from all
Yeah.
different parts of the United States government. It's like, oh my goodness, all these people in the room together, and for the most part, everybody was being cordial. I really admire that. Like, people being cordial. It's a new day, let's try to get along for today. And people did. People did seem
They
to,
did.
at least outwardly facing, it seemed like people really tried to show up for the inauguration, because we literally have been through hell the past 4 years. And like you said with Michelle, it was just like a new day. From the photo that she took 4 years ago, where she's like,
Yes.
just please get me out of here. I don't want to be here. To the one we saw last month, and she was walking down again, the suit, and holding on to her
Everything.
man. And it was great. It was a great moment.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think just the statements that everybody made with like their fashion choices that day
Mhm.
just just spoke volumes around. And like I said, it's like I've always known that fashion obviously always have like a message and you can always convey that, but just to see it like on a on an inauguration day and to just see it speak something, I was like, look at this, we don't have to be loud about making statements, we don't have to be brandishing, like it could be just the way what you're wearing and what you're trying to convey from that. And I'm like I see this new administration. They're like, it's like, don't quietly we'll bring change and we'll make messages, but don't underestimate us because there's definitely some power behind everything in that in our new administration, I think.
I
Um,
believe so too. Like you said, I agree with what you said. We have to be realistic in what Biden's trying to do in his administration. I think uh, I'm probably speaking for a lot of people. I'm not trying to, but the millennials and probably the Gen Zs, the very progressive folks, and looking
yeah.
for a lot to come out of this. Not saying that it won't, but I think we do have to be realistic. We're
Oh
dealing
yeah.
with a more moderate administration.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think, there's some things to come. You and I were talking about AOC last night.
Yeah, we did.
I think there's some,
I think we'll touch on that.
yeah, like I think she, I think she gonna make some moves
Yeah.
over the next decade, because she's barely 30, right? Yeah, she
Yeah.
turned 30.
Yeah.
Over this
She's
next decade,
yeah.
boy, I think we got a lot to see from her. A lot to
Yeah.
see from AOC.
Yes. And hopefully it inspires others to just step up their game,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and kind of, I'm not saying everybody has to be as progressive as she is, but I think if you can start working towards that and start pushing things towards that. I mean, I don't agree on everything she has to say. Like, I'm not gonna like sit here and lie and be like, oh my god, I'm as progressive as she is. I'm like, I'm not, but there's things that I think that she has some valid points, and I think there's a way to kind of mesh all of that and really kind of do something with the Democratic Party that needs it needs some updates.
Some updates, honey. We need a do-over, a change up. Because, as we've said before on our other videos, well over half the country was red during the election. So there's a lot of work for Democrats to really like understand
Yeah,
what is going on. Like, really go to these states,
yeah,
these different counties, and talk to people and really try to understand their mindset. Because as much as people, I think, want to dismiss that, can't dismiss.
no.
This last administration had a lot of followers.
And they came out on election,
Yeah,
and you can't dismiss that amount of people that really came out uh, to say that they wanted the last administration to continue. Thankfully, they weren't the majority.
okay. Thank you, Georgia, by the way.
Thank you. We really
Georgia,
appreciate it.
this is a cheers. Cheers. Oh, what let me see. The inauguration. I mean, that was such and that was the day after my birthday. It was like, what a great belated birthday gift.
Yep.
It really was. And that day, I remember at least here in Chicago, the sun was shining. It was a beautiful day here.
It was a really nice day here.
It was a beautiful day. It was such a good. I'm like, what? Oh, this is just such a great day for an inauguration. It's so wonderful. Another prop I gotta give for all the women who were out there walking in heels all day long,
Mm-mm.
from Gio to Kamala to all of them, Michelle, everybody just walking around in heels all day long. I'm like, yes, 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 yes,
Kudos
yes.
to you.
Got out the car and start walking in heels. Okay, yes.
You would have seen me switch shoes pretty quickly.
Oh, I would have switched. I'm like, you know, it is what it is. Sorry, my constituents, but I'm putting on flats at this point.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, round of applause for that shit. It's an accomplishment in itself. A whole day, you're probably in heels the entire day.
Concrete, asphalt, like all that hurt.
All day. And even though, like, this year, there wasn't a lot of balls and different gatherings because of the pandemic, but there were still things done. So it's just, a round of applause for fashion and heels for everyone that was modeling them that day. Yes. That was great. Not an easy task.
It's not easy being a woman and having to sort of have to follow these norms of like, you have to wear heels. And I'm like, who was it? It was one of Biden's granddaughters that chose not to wear. She wore sneakers, I think, for the.
Yeah, and I know.
Is it Biden or was it Kamala? I can't remember.
It was Kamala's family. It was a member of her family because her niece, husband was there. I'm probably gonna chop up her name, so I don't even want to say it. Maybe Nima. I don't maybe saying that completely wrong, but her husband had on. Her husband had on sneakers that day, and I was like, yes. Let's not be so staunchy. Let's switch it up. Let's
let's be honest. They were very expensive sneakers.
Oh yeah, I'm like, this is not like the sneakers we get.
I would get.
I'm not a sneaker person in general, so this would not really reflect on my sense of fashion. But yes, I'm sure they are expensive sneakers.
They were expensive.
So I'm just like, yes. Wear those expensive sneakers to the inauguration. Shit, why not? You know what? This may never happen again. It may, but why not? This is one chance to just do you on that day. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yes, wear your sneakers. Wear your sneakers. Yes.
Normalize sneakers for men and women.
For men and women. I agree.
In formal occasions. I'm all for that. Just saying.
I would be for that. I would be for that too. The southern part in me probably wouldn't let me wear sneakers, but if other people want to do it, more power to you. Yes. I can just my mama now, you wearing sneakers to a gala? You know what?
My mom would be like, that's not.
She would. She's like, that's okay, baby.
I remember when I had going completely off topic. I remember when the younger generation at the church I was at started wearing jeans to church.
I remember that. Oh, I mean, people started wearing jeans. Oh,
that was a hard transition for the church to really accept that jeans were an appropriate attire.
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because the other day I said something I thought was in the Bible. Like, that's not in the Bible. It's not in the Bible. But wait, is it? Does it really say "come as you are" in the Bible?
Somewhere it does say.
Okay.
Where? I don't know. I don't remember.
Like, I don't know where we're going, but come as you are. And people, really have been stretching that. I mean, I just remember, I know we're getting a little off tangent, but I have to say.
Sorry, but we got to follow this. We got to bring it back home.
Just remember
let's do it.
Growing up, down in Mississippi, going to church with my mama. It's so because uh it's like you saying one thing, we're doing something else. It's like my mom's like, well, the Lord said, come as you are. If you don't have this or have that, you can still come to church. But we wouldn't dare. Wouldn't dare. And church is where people show up and show out. Like, they bring like the newest out, at least for Black churches.
Mm-hmm.
Easter suits and Easter dresses, Christmas time, it's always fashion shows.
Yeah, and I think the reason, and I know I'm completely gonna go a little serious at the moment, that the whole "come as you are" kind of I don't know, I want to call it a movement, but sort of theology or whatever came to be was because the church was really becoming more of this exclusivity kind of thing, where like it was focusing on how you were dressed, like the outward appearance and all these things,
Mhm.
when Jesus was for everyone. So, it should be open to those that are homeless, those that don't have much, and it should be inviting. I think that's where it sort of started really resonating. I think that's where I think again the younger church, and this I think you see that from some of the more younger now pastors out here that are like
Oh, yeah.
hey, you can come as you are. Like if you don't have clothes that are modern or whatever, or you are struggling with addiction and all this, like, because before it wasn't like, I remember it'd be gossip if someone came in that looked, not as well put together or things like that. And it was like, I was like, but are we then really, being Jesus if we're not opening our doors to everyone? But I just had to go because I remember that transition happening. I was at the church, sort of the churches I was in, and sort of just seeing it play out and what it is now. But yeah,
That was okay. Bringing it full circle.
and that's why I said like clothes and fashion have a way of kind of
making a statement, like you said, without being like loud, or if you want, yeah, it's a way to make a silent, but not, yeah, but not so silent statement. Yep. So definitely agree.
Yeah, but I think another thing that sort of happened throughout, and I don't think we talked about it, was the attempted coup that happened a week.
Like, yeah, I was, yeah, because I want to talk about the impeachment, but the attempted coup. Actually, I've forgotten about. I think like Republicans, I'm like blocking it out, because they want to pretend the shit didn't happen. They were like, impeach who? What are you talking about? let it go, bitch. No, okay. All these cuckoos up there, girl. They won't even let people of color even make it that far. You were allowed to go on up in there. See, this is a whole bunch of white supremacists just in how it happened.
How it happened, yes.
Like, it's some bullshit. And the Republicans, for this man they've tried to impeach him twice, right? Both times failed. So he could he could still run again in 2024. Yeah. So this is some bullshit. That's some bullshit. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think I remember watching it happen on TV. Because I started just kind of getting alerts and things of like what was happening.
Alerts, yeah.
And I started watching it, and it was just very interesting to me because obviously I was working. It was a work day, and after I saw it just play out on CNN, because I turned on CNN right away, and I'm like, this is happening. Like this is like they are. I'm like, it's live. I'm like, they are wanting to go in there. I'm like, and destroy and probably kill people. Like they want to like hurt people. Like they are not there to just hold up their signs or anything. Like they are wanting to harm people in there, and these people were armed. Like I'm like, and they went in, and I remember, and I'm like, and then I remember like I had some meetings, and I went to some meetings, and like there was barely like any acknowledgement throughout the day about it. And I'm like, am I living in the same world as everybody else? Like, because y'all do know that this is happening. Like it's an actual attempt to overthrow our government. by some crazy people that think that they have every right to do so, and nobody's acknowledging it because it's, I mean, I just took it because it's white people that are doing this, so it's not worthy to kind of everybody to just take a pause and acknowledge that this is happening in our country. Um, it hasn't really happened in the last, decade or more than a decade or whatever was the last. I forgot when was the last time there was a coup in this country or attempted coup, but I was just like, nobody's acknowledging. I remember telling a coworker of like, nobody checked in on me, like, and said like, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Because if that had been successful in any shape, way, or form, it would have been people of color who would be screwed, um, in every sense of the word. And I'm like, nobody checked in that day or even the following day. Like nobody acknowledged anything. They just, it would be like, oh my goodness, we can't believe it happened. And then like, let's go back to business. Let's just, go back and pretend it didn't really happen.
I'm happy you said that because, of course, I was at work too that day, and I think it was 2:30 or 3:30 our time, Central Time here. And my boss and I, we spent 10 minutes talking about it. We were basically because both her and I, we got the alerts on our phone,
Yep.
and she's like, "Are you watching this?" Or you? And I was like, "Watching it." Then I looked at my phone. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like this, like they just people stormed the Capitol. What the hell? And so her and I were talking about it. I mean, so she definitely acknowledged it, and she sent an email out to us. Excuse me, her direct reports after her and I wrapped up our call. Just want to let people know, like, hey, if you wanted to talk to her about something, she's there. But basically, just saying like she can't believe this is happening. So she did acknowledge it. And she is a white woman, but she's very much woke and very much aware. So for that to even happen where you're at, I'm shocked, but not shocked, kind of based on what you've been telling me about things been going on. So yeah.
Sorry about that. The ice is tumbling down my roof.
It's been falling here as well. Like I think maybe in my room it's a little bit more. Hopefully people can't hear it when they watch the video, but it is, and it's scary. It's because it sounds like a collision is happening, and it's So I haven't heard anything.
Sorry about that, but no, I think there was an email that was sent out. I think it was towards the end of the day, from like tippity top leadership that came out, but that was probably
they had to,
the most acknowledgement I had. Now within my department, it was more of like in passing, can't believe it's happening in like maybe like in the start of a meeting, and then business as usual. And I'm like, but thankfully, this is why we have this outlet where we can talk about these kind of things. And so I knew that you and I were going to talk about it. So I was like, I don't need work or others to validate anything for me.
I'm not gonna get. I can say so much, but I won't. Oh, I won't say. We just continue talking about the attempted coup, but and it was just like they came in there with guns and and the fact like, and I think I posted something on my Instagram that day, and I was just like, here we got black people, just Latinx folks, like we can't walk down the street. We can't be eating a sandwich, walking the dog, planting a flower, going to work, cooking the kitchen, nothing without being a suspect to something.
Yeah.
And yet we got people just unwilling. I still don't know. I don't know if it's been said or not. Maybe it has. Who the hell let them get that far? How did they get that far? Like, you saw all these hundreds of people shouting and rioting coming up the street, and you like, let's let them in the Capitol.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the videos that were shown, I mean, the police or security, whatever was there, like, I mean, I heard the same thing of others just say like, well, they let them in because the people that were supposedly securing or being security that day, they're the same people that are wanting to march, so they just let them in. Like there's videos of people just, you know,
willingly. So people that the guards
and stuff just sort of like opened up any barricades or whatever and just kind of let them in, and then, you know, and I think, which is true, like it's the same thing like when we say like, well, why didn't the Republicans vote to impeach, you know, Trump? It's because they're, you know, complicit to that same administration. They're the same and one, like they're one and the same. Like it's no different than that. Like some of the security that was around the Capitol sided with the people that were storming the Capitol building and had no.
And I think with too, with some of this impeachment, there were some Democrats that voted against it too, I believe. And
There was, I think there was
a few, not a lot, maybe 6 or 7, a few of them. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So you just letting it, no, this all, because I don't, people are saying like, we need to let it go, you know, it's already happened. No, because if this was somebody else who was not white, you would not be letting it go. You would make it seem like your life is so in danger. Like, oh my God. But the fact that I feel Democrats, they didn't do enough. They didn't stand up enough for it. I don't know where the disconnect was, but I don't think they stood up enough. I mean, they fight for what they want to fight for. And I don't think they fought enough for this.
I agree with you. I think, and that's where I think like when I was talking about like the Democratic Party needing a little bit more of that progressiveness, and just not just progressive, but that assertiveness to be like, hey, this is, I mean, if you're controlling House and Senate, like you need to use that to your advantage. I mean, they're all talking about like, well, we got to compromise, and the Republicans like, we got to share power. We, you know, unity. You got. I'm like, there was a time and place for that, and y'all didn't do it. So why is it the expectation that we have to do it now? Like, why do we have to always be the better person and always have to do this? And not that we're gonna be the bad person in this scenario, but we're like, you know what, we're gonna take into consideration that this country wanted us to be in power. Like this is it. So we're gonna take this, and yeah, we're gonna be open to discussing and talk about unity and things like that. But if it's wrong, it's wrong, and like we need to make sure that we, as a Democratic Party, are doing a complete united front. And that's the problem with the Democratic Party. They don't always do a united front. The Republicans
do. Because look at everything happened with Mitch McConnell. You know how I feel about Mitch McConnell. Ever since he, look, you know, him and Donald them fell out because he was standing up for him while he was the president. He was taking a lot of slack. But look at him, he's like, now it's to fall apart. But Republicans stick together. That's why Democrats don't stick together. There is a lot. And I think between, you know, the moderates and people who are liberal, but then the people who are progressive, they got all this internal stuff. And then you got the more conservative liberals. So it's you know, it's really like you said, Democrats just like need to do better, because the fact that this man can still run again, and I think he probably fully intend to, because he
had the whole intent of like saying, I'll be back or whatever.
Yeah, he down there in Florida rethinking his strategies, still crazy. But that ain't stopping his show. And I just think the fact that they didn't even try to, this is really an embarrassment to basically to the United States. Like, we can't talk about other countries no more and how they handle dictatorships and stuff like that, because we sat here and let this man get away with what he did. And him didn't even say anything about the coup. Just like, we love you, but go home now. But he never came out. Even Lord, he was so petty about the inauguration, didn't even show up.
Didn't show up.
Like, what is this? Like, and the thing to me, when the stuff happened at the Capitol, and I was talking about this with some other friends, and I was like, it's almost like this, they on this sacred ground almost doing this. Like the Capitol, you know, as much as like, you know, I've told you I don't really think two shits about the national anthem, but I think I don't know, it was something there, like you on this sacred ground where all this important shit happens and so much has gone down here positively. And
Mhm.
here you're coming, riding this place. And it's just like, why are you here doing this? This is like almost somebody attacking the White House.
Yeah.
Like, don't, it's like this almost sacred place. Like, just
It's
don't do it.
like for me, it was like this level of disrespect um to this sort of this symbol, right? It's a symbol. Like the Capitol building is a symbol of, our government, and all of those buildings are symbols of like what we stand for and like what we are. And to your point, like so many important things have come out of there where you think of DC and you think of like that is the foundation of all of our, constitutional
Mhm.
rights and all these things and policies and laws and things. And it's like you went in there with the intent of whether it was harm, whether it was because you were just acting like a child because somehow you think you didn't get your way. And like to your point, like this level of disrespect to this whole city and this whole town of like and doing that and not being able to recognize that, hey, like you don't have a right to just storm in there and demand something because it just didn't go your way. Like that's not the way. Like as much as you all talk about it's our constitutional right, it's our whatever, I'm like, that was not your constitutional right in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that the Republican Party could not find itself to completely denounce all of that because it was a sea of white people and primarily white men. It's just like it's like, man, it just makes you, I mean, realize, and we'll talk more about just how much white supremacy is just ingrained and like the root of everything that sort of it is. And it's sort of like, where do we go from now? Because a week later was obviously the inauguration, um and in doing that, and there was that taint of everything because everything was like, you can see the level of security that was during the inauguration and everything that was just sort of. And I mean, for me, there was a level of fear of what could happen on an inauguration day, because you're like, if people were crazy enough to storm into the Capitol building, and then the thing that pissed me off the most was people were like, well, we didn't think we were gonna get in trouble. We didn't think we were. I'm like, it's a crime. Like you all committed a crime,
It's
and you all
treason,
don't. I'm
basically.
like, and you want to be forgiven, and you want, like, they wanted pardons by like, Trump and all these things. I'm like, no, like that's not the way it works. Like you
Right.
all commit,
What is wrong with you?
like
That's what I feel.
committed a crime, like 100%. Like there's no way around it. And even the treatment of some of those that went to jail or were arrested, and then the level of privilege that they got. I'm just like, it goes back to what you and I always say, white supremacy, and the privileges that it affords to those that are white, particularly if you're a white male in this country, and
And
the
who
privilege.
was probably the majority that day was white males.
Yeah,
They had a few crazy white
yes,
bitches in there too. Yes, I said what I said. They were in there too. But the
yeah,
majority, and the thing is, they had a few prominent people out there, like an Olympian. There was some more folks. I think some that were well known in like different industries, and I'm just like,
yep,
what made you think that people in this day and age of social media and the internet and technologies everywhere, that they couldn't find out who you were, especially an Olympian? Honey, they can probably Google you, find your name. They can find you. Like what?
the level of like, I mean, just the audacity that they had to like go live on Facebook, go live on this, and think that the FBI and the government weren't going to find you. I was like, you do know that our phones track us, right? Like this is a tracking device.
Yeah, all day.
Like and the idea that you think that you would have had some kind of enmity or something, like, no, like people are gonna find you. Like this is the day and age where people can find you really quickly. Like this isn't anymore like, I mean, this isn't anymore of like you can just hide or you can, you know, not worry about being caught as easy. I'm like, no. I was like, especially if you're dumb enough to post something on social media, you deserve to get arrested
You do.
because
You do.
I'm like,
You do.
why?
It's called social media. Like, I don't know. This is baffling me. Like, you're putting it out, and the fact is, so much shit happens like this. Well, at least in the level, people post things on social media, then they like
Yeah,
immediately take it down. Honey, somebody out there done screenshotted it, then send it
got
to
it.
5 people, send it to 10 more people, 20 more people. Like, what? Just don't post it. Like, I
Yep.
understand if you want to use your social media to express your emotions, that's cool. I think we all do that in some capacity. But don't be spewing hateful statements and, you know, even, I think we all have strong feelings about things. Honey, if you're gonna write that out in like a notebook on your desk, and even you burn that shit. I don't know what to tell you. Don't be putting it on the internet thinking it's not gonna go, like thinking it's gonna go away. Because it's not. It's there forever. Somebody somewhere can find it. Okay.
Yes. There,
And that to me was just
yes.
so baffling to me. Ugh. And some of
Yeah,
these
and to I mean,
people
yeah,
are smart.
to see people be like, oh, I didn't think it was wrong. I didn't think we were gonna get caught. I didn't think this, and I'm like, I was like, you were just banking on the fact that your privilege would have protected you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's it. Like that's point blank. Because you and I can't even think about having any privilege if we were to have done what those people did.
Exactly.
Like you and I would have known perfectly well we are going to jail. And if we do this, we're probably going to jail for a while. Like we ain't gonna be like acquitted. We're not gonna be found like innocent. Nobody's gonna come out of and sort of like no, like this is if we did this, like you and I would have never thought like, well, even if I get caught, like the chances of being, convicted or whatever are gonna be pretty slim. Like no, we would have been in jail.
Hell
We
no.
wouldn't even have reached the steps of the Capitol. Let's be perfectly honest.
We can't even walk to the corner store and get a lollipop. Well, somebody, something somewhere is something that doesn't feel right. That's why I was like, the fact that mother, have to bring that in. The fact that people let these folks just walk up on in there. It to me, it's just
Mm-hmm.
still baffling because, and it just goes to show you again, there's such a disconnect and there's so much work to be done because we got people who are supposed to be guarding the Capitol thinking that's okay. You got all sort of people, like you have senators in there. I'm not saying like somebody's life is more important than another life just because they're a senator, but it's not just, Joe Blow in this room. Like you got United States senators in this room
Yeah.
trying to make a decision about our country, and you know the state of our country. So you're just gonna let a riot of people, these people not calm, let a riot of people just come on up in here. Oh
Yeah.
well, we didn't know. What? Like this to me, it's just, and this I say, Democrats they should have done more with this impeachment, and the
Yeah.
fact that some of them voted against it, and even some of the Republicans that I think are okay people, they did not vote for it. I'm like, and then again, this is why I say politics is a shitty game. It really is. At the end of the day, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It don't matter if you
Yeah.
Democrat, independent, moderate, Republican. Everybody is trying to move or push some agenda ahead. And if they
Yeah.
can do that, okay, they say, okay, well, I won't do this time, but next time you got to do this for me. Okay. That's essentially how it works. And the
Sadly.
whole time, the country's just suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always when we were in you were talking about like the Democrats, and we were talking a little bit ago about like Democrats working together and figuring out like where they stand. It made me think of like how you and I have talked about community building and like how there has to be more of that collaborative aspect and really finding like we know communities aren't always going to agree on everything and they're not all going to have like the same goals, but there's some commonalities across communities. And I'm like, there are some commonalities across Democrats. I'm like, y'all just need to find what those commonalities are and really stick to them and really kind of full force support that and run through it. And then you can, figure out, negotiate, talk through, discuss, figure out what these other things are. Like, where do you meet in the middle, like as a Democratic Party, to do that? Because otherwise, we're just going to continue being a very uh, fragmented party. Like, we're never going to be able to, like, fully support our progressives to like our liberal conservatives. Like, there has to be sort of this effort to just find those commonalities, find those middle ground issues, and then be okay with, okay, there are some issues we're just never going to agree across the board. But there has to be, but that's in a very like perfect world, in a very like,
And
you
you
know
also make me think at the same time, because you and I also again are always talking about the disconnect that exists amongst um, the different races of
mm,
people, and also within blacks against blacks, Latinos against Latinos, Asians against Asians, whatnot. And I think the Democratic Party is very representative of a lot of the people that they represent. It's so funny, and well, not funny, haha, but like
yeah,
ironic
yeah.
that this is like the Democratic Party is exactly like the people that it's trying to represent,
Hmm.
arguing amongst themselves, can't get along, can't figure shit out. And I hate to keep bashing on Democrats because I am a Democrat, but it's a
Oh,
realization. It's just a realization. I mean,
yeah,
and here the Republicans are very representative of the people that they represent as well.
yeah.
More of the wealthy. Be honest, a lot of them got their shit together. Some of them don't
Hmm.
have their shit together, but they stick together. They stick
Yeah,
together.
they
Democrats,
do.
people of color, within our own races, we don't stick together. It's so representative of just
Yeah.
all of it. Oh, we so smart.
We just had a lot of time to think through this. I mean, between you and I, we've seen and heard, we have heard a lot of things and a lot of perspectives, uh, in our line of work. And, and to your point, like, yeah, it's mimicking the Democratic and the Republic, mimic what's really happening and really kind of just
Mm-hmm.
seeing that. And I think there's just so much to learn from like the community building development aspect to what uh po- you know politicians can do, and really kind of the parties can do to figure out. And like to your point earlier, the Democratic Party has a lot of ground to cover for them to be able to hold office, to continue to hold office and continue to really bring up policies and bring up leaders within their party that are going to really resonate with all of the country, not just with those that
Yeah.
identify as Democrats. Like you, they, I'm full heartedly like they need to spend time listening to those opposing viewpoints and sending people that are going to go talk and listen, and not just listen because it's election season, but like you all need to listen right now. Like you need to start building those conversations and talking and really seeing like, because that was one thing I remember when Hillary lost. I was like, how? And I'm like, because nobody ever listened. Nobody listened to the opposing side. Nobody spent the time to really hear what their concerns are. And some of those concerns revolve around race. And it's like, so you need to address that. You just can't sweep it under the rug and hope that, as you show more diversity, it's going to be like, oh, kumbaya moments. I'm like, no, because that's what they don't want to see. I was like, so you need to address it and bring it and really kind of. Some people you're not going to change their mind. Some people you're not going to they're going to be racist through and through until the day that that the Lord calls them home. But I was like, but there are those.
We don't know if they're going home. We don't know. Yeah.
But but I think it's like there are gonna be those that are gonna listen and sort of want to learn, but for you to also learn. So there's just this whole thing that just hasn't been done in our country, where it's like real conversations. Like, yeah, I think there's a lot of building between our Black and brown communities and within even each community, but like, y'all Democrats, y'all have an opportunity to go into rural America and really kind of have conversations, lead those conversations, because let's be honest, most of the Democrats.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. Think Lisette froze again. The frozen has happened. It's happened. Oh no. It's happened. So that's gonna come back. What?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's definitely up to the primarily the white males that are in our Democratic Party to lead these conversations, have their offices do what they have to do, and do that outreach and have those conversations. And then you politely ask your white women that are in the Democratic Party to, be part of those. And then, you say, fellow Democrats that are Black, brown, or Asian, or things like, would you be interested in supporting some of these conversations? And if they say no, be okay with that.
Right.
Um, and not force them to sort of be part of that. But I think I mean, and it's a daunting task. I'm not saying it's easy and simple, but I think it's necessary. Like, I thought it was necessary 4 years ago. Um, Nobody did anything. No, I mean, the Democratic Party did not do anything to really, uh, at least from what I saw,
Right.
from what I or like I didn't really see any of those kind of, and it really kind of fell. I saw a lot of Black and brown organizations kind of pop up and talk about, like, well, we need to have race conversations and racial unity, particularly within the Black and brown community. And I was like, I like that idea and I think it's necessary, but in order to really move our country forward, you there's others that need to be part of that sort of narrative
Yeah.
conversation, because like, it's you have to go into rural America and make and have those conversations, while you're having those race relation buildings within you know Asian community, Latinx, and in the Black community. I think it goes parallel, like they have to happen, and then at some point we're all gonna meet and sort of figure that all out. But
Oh,
it sounds tiring. Even just talking about it sounds tiring.
I'm just thinking like, oh,
It is. It's daunting.
it was very tiring. Okay, I took a deep breath. Okay, all right. Well, channel members, people watching, so Lisette and I, we're going to wrap up this video, but we have another recap that we're going to do that's going to focus around the vaccine and around the snowstorm that is currently has been taking place down in Texas, and a lot more connected to that as well. So stay tuned. We will be right back, and we'll see y'all in a bit.
Bye.
Bye.